Hey, this is my first time posting, and I'm not sure if I'll even get any replies, but I need to get this off my chest. This all happened a few years ago, but I still can't shake the feeling of betrayal. Maybe you all can help me understand if I was in the wrong, but I honestly think I'm owed a little justice for what went down. So, here's the setup. My name is Jess, and I come from a pretty normal family. Mom, Dad, and my younger brother, Alex. Like most families, we had our share of squabbles over the years, but nothing too serious. That is, until the whole issue with our late grandfather's house came up. Grandpa passed away when I was in my early 20s, and he left behind this small, but charming house. It wasn't anything special, certainly not a mansion, but it was cozy, had a good amount of space, and it felt like it could be home. The only problem was, no one was living there. Grandpa had been living alone in the house for years, and now that he was gone, it just sat there, empty and waiting for someone to take it. I didn't think much about it at first. It was just a house, right? But then, out of nowhere, Alex, my younger brother, announced he was moving into Grandpa's place. No biggie, I thought. He could use the space, and I wasn't exactly in a position to need it at the time. At that point, I was living with some friends, just trying to get by after a rough breakup. But as time passed, I realized I could really use a place of my own, somewhere quiet to regroup, get a little peace and space. So, I did what anyone would do. I asked my parents if I could stay at Grandpa's house for a while. I wasn't asking for a permanent spot, just a temporary place while I got my life back on track. I was already feeling a little awkward about it, because Alex had just moved in. But it's not like I was asking for his room. I'd be fine with the extra room or even the guest bedroom. I figured it wouldn't hurt to ask, right? I'll never forget the moment I brought it up to my parents. It was a Sunday afternoon, and we were all sitting in the living room. I was feeling a bit nervous because I knew Alex was already settled in there, but I figured my parents would see it as a reasonable request. Hey, Mom, Dad, I started, my voice a little tentative. I've been thinking, do you think I could stay at Grandpa's house for a little while? I could really use a place to crash until I get back on my feet. I'll help with anything, like taking care of the place or doing the lawn work. There was a pause. My mom looked at me for a second, but instead of the usual warmth in her expression, there was this almost flatness. It was hard to put my finger on it first, but something was off. My dad was sitting there too, half paying attention, his eyes glued to his phone as always. He didn't even look up when I spoke. Mom sighed, then looked at Dad, like she was waiting for him to say something. When he didn't, she finally spoke. No, Jess, that's not going to work. I froze for a second. What do you mean? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It's Alex's place now, she said, almost dismissively. He's the one who's staying there. You need to figure something else out. I could feel my chest tighten. It was one thing to hear that from my brother, but coming from my mom? And Dad just sat there, staring at his phone, acting like I wasn't even talking. I didn't know what to say. My mouth went dry, and I tried to keep my cool. I don't need to stay forever, just for a little while. I'd be really careful, I promise. It's just temporary while I get back on track. My mom's face didn't soften. She crossed her arms, leaning back in her chair. No, Jess, it's not happening. But why? What's the big deal? I pressed, genuinely confused. This was family, right? I thought we were supposed to help each other out. My dad finally looked up from his phone. It's Alex's house now. You should be more independent. I blinked, feeling the sting of his words. It wasn't like I wasn't trying to be independent. I just needed a little help, a little space to breathe. But no, this was apparently where the line was drawn. But, you let Alex stay there. Why not me? I asked, my voice a little sharper than I meant. My mom's gaze hardened, like I'd said something I shouldn't have. Alex needs it, Jess. He's been struggling with things, and we've already told you, you need to handle your own stuff. Don't ask for special treatment. The words felt like a slap in the face. Alex is struggling? I repeated, my voice shaky now. What about me? I've been struggling too. But apparently, I don't matter enough for a little help. The room went silent for a few moments, and I could feel the tension in the air. My parents didn't seem to care about the situation. They just sat there, as if I was being unreasonable. And Alex? Well, of course, when I mentioned it to him later, he laughed. You really think I'm going to let you move in here? He asked, snickering. No way, Jess. It's my place now. Figure it out. So, after that, I tried to put it out of my mind. It wasn't easy, but I had no choice. I couldn't just sit around begging for a place to stay. I had to make things work, So I moved into a tiny studio apartment that I could barely afford. It was cramped, but it was mine, and I didn't have to rely on anyone. But as much as I hated the situation, the bitterness stayed with me. Every time I saw my parents or Alex, I couldn't shake the feeling that they had abandoned me. I was the one who needed a hand up, not Alex, who had been living rent-free in a house he didn't even care about, acting like it was his personal palace. But they all kept defending him. He's in a rough spot, my mom would say whenever I brought it up. You'll figure it out, Jess. And Alex? Well, he wasn't shy about rubbing it in. He'd send me texts every now and then, bragging about how his life was so much easier with the house. He'd even throw in a comment here or there about how nice it was not to have to pay rent. It was like he knew how much it bothered me and he loved it. He was playing some twisted game, and I was the punchline. Things dragged on like that for months. I got a second job, started hustling to cover rent, and tried to keep my head down. But it was hard not to feel like my parents had picked a side. I'd overhear them talking about Alex's bright future and how he was really getting his act together. Meanwhile, they'd give me these forced pep talks, telling me that I just needed to work harder. I guess they thought I'd get over it, but I didn't. I was tired of being the one they only remembered when they needed something. One evening, about a year after the whole "no, you can't stay at Grandpa's house" incident, I was out grabbing dinner when I got a call from my mom. I didn't even want to pick it up, but I did. "Jess, honey, we need to talk," she said, her voice oddly serious. I felt a little jolt of anxiety. My parents had never called me this late unless something was up. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Well, we've been talking, and we have a situation," she said slowly, dragging out every word. "We're in a bit of a financial bind, and we could really use your help. It's important." I sat up straighter. This sounded off. They'd never asked me for help before. Not like this. "Okay, what kind of help are we talking about?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "Your dad and I need to borrow some money," she said, not even bothering to sugarcoat it. "We've had some unexpected expenses come up, and we were hoping you could loan us a couple thousand, just until we can get things sorted." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mouth went dry. Here I was, struggling to make rent, still getting by on a shoestring budget, and they wanted me to give them money? The same people who had turned me away when I needed them? I was quiet for a moment, not sure what to say. "You want me to give you money?" I repeated, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "After everything? After you told me to figure it out when I needed help? Now you want to borrow from me?" There was an awkward silence on the other end of the line before my mom spoke again. "Look, Jess, we're not asking for much, and we're family. We've helped you before, and now it's your turn to help us." The audacity. She really thought I'd just roll over and help them after everything that happened? I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. I wanted to tell her no. I wanted to hang up the phone and let them deal with their own mess, just like they had told me to do when I was struggling. But there was something inside me that snapped. Maybe it was the anger, or maybe it was just the sheer injustice of the situation. "Actually," I said, my voice calm but sharp, "I think I've helped enough already." "What are you talking about?" she asked, confused. "I've been helping myself for the past year," I said, feeling a little more confident now. "You made it clear that I wasn't worth helping. You told me to figure it out, so that's what I did. I didn't get a place to crash. I didn't get a handout. And now, you want me to bail you out." My mom's tone shifted from pleading to defensive. "Jess, this is different. We're family. You should understand that." "I do understand," I said, a bit of a bitter chuckle slipping out. "I understand that when it was my turn, I was supposed to figure it out on my own. And now that it's your turn, you're coming to me. Well, I'm going to do the same thing you did. Figure it out." I could hear her sputtering, but I wasn't done yet. "And as for the money, I think I'll be keeping it for myself, just in case I ever need to figure something out again." The silence on the other end was almost deafening. I could almost picture her speechless, not knowing what to say to that. And then, just before I hung up, I added one final line. "Maybe you should have helped me when you had the chance." The silence lingered for what felt like an eternity before my mom finally spoke again, but this time, her voice had lost the pleading tone. It was colder, sharper. "Well, fine. If you don't want to help, then we'll just have to figure it out ourselves." I heard the sound of her taking a breath, probably trying to compose herself. "But don't think this is the last time we're going to ask. You're still family, Jess." I wasn't sure if I was supposed to feel guilty, but honestly, all I felt was a quiet sense of relief. I had finally stood up for myself. "Yeah, well, good luck," I said before I ended the call, my hand shaking slightly as I put the phone down. That night, I didn't sleep much. It wasn't because I felt bad. I didn't. It was because I felt powerful. I had said no. I had taken control of the situation. For once, I wasn't the one on the receiving end of their expectations. For once, I made the rules. The next few days were tense, though. My mom and dad didn't call or text me, which felt weird. I was used to their constant check-ins or their passive-aggressive guilt trips. But now, nothing. It was like I had vanished from their radar, and it was exactly what I needed. I didn't want to deal with their drama anymore. Alex, on the other hand, wasn't as silent. He texted me the day after that conversation. "Mom and Dad said you're being stubborn," he wrote. "I don't get it. Why can't you just help them out like they helped you?" I stared at the text for a while before responding, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Help them out? Like how? By letting them control me again? I don't think so. He replied almost immediately. "Wow, Jess. I'm just saying. They've been there for you. You should be there for them now." I wanted to scream, to tell him exactly what I thought of him and his precious little house, but I held back. Instead, I just typed out something simple. Maybe if they'd been there for me when I needed it, I'd be more inclined to help. There was a pause before he answered again. "You're being childish." And that was it. It didn't matter what he said, because I knew one thing. I wasn't going to fall for their manipulation anymore. It had taken me a while to realize it, but I was done. I was done being the one to bend over backward while they walked all over me. But the real twist? The real reason they were going to regret this? They weren't done with me yet. Oh, no. They still needed something. Something big. And when they came crawling back, I would be ready. A couple of weeks went by, and I settled into my routine. Work, gym, Netflix, sleep. It wasn't glamorous, but I felt more at peace than I had in months. The guilt they tried to make me feel had slowly faded away, replaced with a quiet satisfaction. I had taken control. I had done what was right for me. But just when I thought I was safe from their drama, the storm hit. One afternoon, as I was finishing up a shift at the cafe, I saw a notification pop up on my phone. It was a message from my dad. I hadn't heard from him directly in ages. It read, "We need to talk. Urgently." I felt a knot in my stomach, the familiar anxiety creeping back in. I stared at the message, trying to figure out what was going on. It had been so quiet for so long, I was beginning to think they'd just given up on me. I was about to reply when another message came through, this one from Alex. "It's about Grandpa's house," he wrote. "Dad's asking for your help." I stared at the message for a long time. Help with Grandpa's house? What the hell did that even mean? I could already feel my blood pressure rising. They couldn't possibly be serious. I decided to call my dad. It rang a few times before he picked up. "Jess," he said, his voice strained. "We need to talk about something important." "Dad, what's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though I could feel my heart thudding in my chest. "Look, it's a long story, but we need you to come by the house. There's something you need to know. Something urgent about the property." I felt a sudden chill. "What do you mean, urgent?" "We can't explain it all over the phone. You need to come in person." "Why now? Why are you asking me for help again, after everything?" I asked, my frustration creeping in. "Please, Jess," he said, the desperation clear in his voice. "Just come over. This is really important." I wanted to say no. I wanted to hang up the phone and tell them to figure it out themselves. But then I remembered the satisfaction of standing my ground before. Maybe, just maybe, this was the final test. And I was going to pass it with flying colors. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I just texted back, "I'll be there in an hour." I pulled up to my parents' house, gripping the steering wheel tighter than I needed to. I knew something was off. The whole urgent thing didn't sit right with me. If it were really that important, they would have told me over the phone. But I was curious. Curious to see just how far they would go to manipulate me this time. As I stepped out of my car, I took a deep breath, bracing myself for whatever nonsense they were about to throw at me. I rang the doorbell, and after a few moments, my mom opened the door with a wide, overly enthusiastic smile. "Oh, Jess, you actually came," she said, as if we hadn't just spent the last few months at odds. I narrowed my eyes. "Yeah, you said it was urgent." She waved her hand dismissively. Come in. We'll explain inside." I hesitated before stepping into the house. It smelled the same as always, vanilla candles and my dad's old cologne lingering in the air. It should have felt comforting, but instead, it made me uneasy, like I was stepping into a trap. I followed my mom into the living room, where my dad and Alex were already waiting. My dad was seated in his old recliner, arms crossed, looking annoyed. Alex sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone like he couldn't care less that I was there. I took a seat across from them. "All right," I said, cutting straight to the point. "What's so urgent?" My dad cleared his throat. "Well, first, we just wanted to see you, sweetheart. It's been too long." I let out a dry laugh. "Right. Because you were so desperate to see me that you couldn't just say that on the phone." My mom shot my dad a look, and he sighed. "Fine. We wanted to talk to you about Grandpa's house." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "What about it?" My mom gave me that saccharine smile she always used when she was about to ask for something unreasonable. "Well, we've been talking, and we realized that, maybe, we were a little unfair to you before." I blinked. "A little." She ignored my sarcasm and continued. "The thing is, Alex has been having a tough time keeping up with things at the house. There are property taxes, maintenance, and, well, he's just got so much on his plate. We thought that maybe you could step in and help." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "Help?" "Yes," my dad chimed in. "We were thinking you could start pitching in financially, just to make sure everything is taken care of." I felt my jaw tighten. "Let me get this straight. You told me I couldn't live there when I needed a place to stay, but now you want me to pay for it? For Alex's house?" My brother finally looked up from his phone, rolling his eyes. "It's not just for me, Jess. It's for the family." I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, now it's a family thing? That's funny, because when I needed help, I was told to figure it out." My mom sighed dramatically, like I was being the unreasonable one. "Jess, don't be like this. We made decisions that we thought were best at the time. But now, we really do need your help." I shook my head, feeling my temper rise. "No, you don't need my help. You need a scapegoat. You need someone to clean up the mess you made when you handed Grandpa's house to Alex without thinking it through." My dad leaned forward, his expression hardening. "Don't talk like that. This is about doing what's right for the family." I stood up, my heart pounding. "You mean doing what's right for Alex? Because let's be real, that's all this has ever been about." Alex scoffed. "Oh, come on, Jess. Stop playing the victim. You act like we threw you out on the street." I turned to him, my voice cold. "You did. Maybe not literally, but you sure as hell didn't care when I was struggling. You told me to figure it out. So guess what? Now it's your turn." My mom gasped. "Jess, that is not how family treats each other." I laughed. Actually laughed. "That's rich coming from you. Because when I needed my family, where were you?" "Oh, right. Too busy handing out free houses to my golden child brother." My dad's face was turning red. "That's enough." I grabbed my bag. "No, it's not. Because I'm done. I'm done playing this game where you guilt-trip me into being your backup plan. You made your choice when you told me I wasn't welcome. Well, now I'm making mine." My mom looked genuinely panicked now. "Jess, wait." I shook my head. "No, you don't get to control me anymore. You don't get to cherry pick when I'm part of the family." I turned to Alex. "You wanted the house? You got it. Good luck figuring it out." I turned on my heel and walked to the door, my heart pounding in my chest. "Jess, don't do this." My dad called after me. "We need you." I stopped at the doorway, turning back just enough to meet his eyes. "Yeah," I said, "and I needed you." Funny how that works. And with that, I walked out. I drove away without looking back, but the second I was alone in my car, I felt a wave of emotions crash over me: anger, frustration, maybe even a little sadness. Not because I regretted what I said, but because it confirmed something I had always suspected. I was never really part of their plans unless they needed something from me. After that, I went full no contact. Blocked their numbers, ignored their emails, and made it clear through mutual relatives that I was done. And you know what? It was the best decision I ever made. No more last-minute guilt trips. No more feeling like I was some disposable backup plan. From what I've heard, Alex is still struggling with the house. Turns out, property taxes and upkeep aren't as easy as having everything handed to you on a silver platter. My parents apparently tried to spin the story to make me look like the villain, but people caught on fast. Some of my extended family actually reached out to tell me they understood why I walked away. Honestly, I have no regrets. They made their choice, and I made mine. So, what do you think? Was I too harsh? Or did they finally just get a taste of their own medicine?